The British Isles have long been the epicenter of the whiskey world. But the fascination with this mysterious and magical spirit has grown exponentially in the past 2 decades, especially here in the U.S. Whether you're an expert or just curious, we found the perfect guide. As Sukhinder Singh strolls through the festival he created, he does so as current king of the whiskey world.
Young man.
It's a joy and a pleasure as ever.
This is the annual whiskey show in London.
It's single cask and then blended at the end.
So you can chew on the flavors together.
A sort of Comic-Con of the industry.
It's all over the place.
Where buyers, sellers, and tasters come from around the globe.
It's very different. It's kind of nice and creamier as well.
Yeah.
For Sukhinder, it's the latest chapter in a remarkable story that started 50 years ago. In 1971, Sukhinder's parents were the first Asians to be granted a liquor license in the United Kingdom. He and his brother, Rajbir, would eventually work in their shop, back when everyone bought bottles in stores. As that began to change, the Singh parents began planning their retirement.
They'd been in shops for probably 20 years. They'd worked really hard. Business was getting pretty tough. There was a lot of competition in the area. And when we knew this was going to happen, I spoke to my brother and said, we've been here for a while since finishing university, but now we need to go and get proper jobs. What are we going to do?
The family closed the shop in 1999. But that same year, in the early days of dot-com retail, Sukhinder and Rajbir formed a company that sold bottles exclusively online. It was called the Whiskey Exchange. Over the last 20 years, it's become the largest online whiskey retailer in the world, both Sukhinder's business and his passion.
You say whiskey is more than just a drink. What do you mean?
I think whiskey is an experience, yeah? If you speak to people, what they love about whiskey is that they get these flavors which make them reminisce of the past.
Whiskey, at its heart, is simple. It has just 3 ingredients: grain, water, and yeast. The magic happens when those ingredients are fermented, distilled, and aged in each distiller's distinct way.
This is the whiskey, the Glenlivet.
Scottish whiskey, or Scotch, has long been the gold standard.
I think you look great, man, and I think I'm looking like the money, like the bomb.
As was famously emphasized in the 1996 movie Swingers.
Have a scotch on the rocks, please. Any scotch will do, as long as it's not a blend, of course. Single malt. Glenlivet, Glenfiddich, perhaps, maybe a Glengow, any Glen.
Ireland has also been money when it comes to producing fantastic whiskey. The U.S., too, often sweeter varieties like bourbon. In the past 2 decades, Asia has come on very strong. Sukhinder carries all of it, both online and now also in his stores, including the one we visited.
We've got islands here, then we've got Speyside.
There are 9,000 different varieties, some priced as high as £82,000, or more than $100,000.
Some would argue not much of a looker for £82,000, am I right?
It's antique.
Correct. I love old historic bottles, anything from the 1960s, 70s, 80s and prior.
How many bottles in your personal collection?
Around 8,000.
It can get real snobby. I think you try to meet people where they're at. Why is that so important?
I actually don't think whiskey is snobby. I think wine is snobby. I actually think whiskey is a friendly drink. Most people say whiskey is best when you enjoy it with friends.
After we became fast friends, that's exactly what we did.
So first of all, since it's 8 a.m. and we have a long day ahead of us, I'm going to be sipping.
Best time to drink whiskey. Your palate is clean.
As long as you say it's okay.
I do.
What should we try first?
First up was a 27-year-old Bunnahabhain single malt, less peaty and smoky than a typical Islay whiskey.
It's peppery.
Spicy, peppery.
Yeah.
It's quite textural on the palate,
Yeah.
fully mouth coating.
Even like a lemon honey almost, maybe a little bit.
A hint of lemon oil. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. It's like a breakfast whiskey. It's what it is.
You're impressed.
Yeah, I am impressed.
We followed that with the far heavier 21-year-old Glenfarclas, before arriving at one of the fastest growing whiskey markets of the last 20 years, Japan. This 12-year-old Yamazaki single malt sells for $170 a bottle, more than doubling in price over the past 10 years. Then there's the latest superstar, Chichibu, introduced by Singh 2 years ago.
That bottle is how much?
This bottle is the 2019. We launched this at 175. Today it's 750.
Pounds, which is
Pounds.
close to $1,000.
Yeah.
Taiwan's Kavlan is another fast riser on the whiskey stage. Thanks to a humid climate, the whiskey matures much sooner, so while only a few years old, it has the taste and feel of something much older.
I mean, for a 3-year-old whiskey,
I do like it, absolutely.
that's superb.
Today, the number of independent distilleries turning out quality whiskey is higher than ever. Part of the reason why Sukhinder and his brother were just able to sell the whiskey exchange to French giant Pernod Ricard for a small fortune. Both plan to stay heavily involved in operations, continuing to shape the empire 50 years after their parents first made history.
Sitting back in your parents' shop as a kid, did you ever see all this happening?
Never.
Beyond your wildest dreams?
Haven't had time to think.
Well, we can think now as we look at this display. I brought a treat, even though we still have 45 minutes of show left. This is a little box set they do, 20 whiskeys that changed the world.
Oh, wow.
Take you to the last 100 years.
Nice.
It's a cool little thing. And we have one of their branded whiskeys here, a single malt, a 21-year-old. So this has been sitting in the cask for 21 years. You guys were 10 when this was bottled.
I love how you say that, Jeff. Not the Buddha Hobbin.
Cheers. That story was beautiful.
I love it.
Their
It really
story
was.
is beautiful.
You know what's so great about it? They're one of the few second generations that surpasses the parents. It really is a great success story. Cheers, folks.
I already drank mine.
take a
This is
sniff.
good. Yeah.
Smell it first. Get a little.
It's delicious.
Now, what kind of, is this a Scottish?
It's a Scotch. It's a single malt. It's a single malt Scotch.
Woo.
It's a lighter Scotch, so you get like little pineapple, little pear.
It's very
I'm
fruity.
impressed
I
by
like
your
it.
palate. Very impressed by your palate in that piece.
We're always impressed with Jeffrey.
We
Todd.
are.